can see, we got the BRZ pulled in, and I got a big old box here from Subaru. This is the new fuel tank. If you remember, I did smoke that deer and it took out my fuel tank. So I'm really excited to get this car back on the road so I can drive it and enjoy this crazy nice weather that we've been having. So first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to block the front, jack the rear of the car up. There's still a little bit of gas. Hopefully let that drain out the rest of the way. Jump inside, take the rear seats out, disconnect like the high pressure feed and return and the electrical for the fuel pump. That way none of that will be still connected when we drop the tank. And then we can drop underneath and start tearing everything apart down to there. So we got a lot to do. Let's get right into it. So here it's important to make sure that you chock the front of the car up. And then I'm starting on the inside, pulling the seats out. There's a tab on the back. You actually have to push the back of the seat down towards the floor, and that'll release the seat hook there. Disconnecting the fuel pump. Now for the fuel, the high pressure feed line, for the quick connect, I don't have the correct tool for it, so I'm just using 2 dental picks to pry the ears apart. It works really well for me actually on this. And then on the other side, underneath the other seat, same thing. It's got that hook that you gotta push down on. And then this is just the transfer pump, so it's just one plug. Now that the inside's all taken care of, I don't need to crawl inside there anymore. Let's get the car jacked up. I'm going to be putting her on jack stands, that way I have as much room to wiggle around underneath the car as possible. And for good measure, I'm going to take the wheels off. Don't need those. This is going to allow a lot more light in and give me a bunch more room to slide around on the creeper underneath the car in the future here. Okay, so I'm underneath the car, just starting to look at everything. You can see a couple spots here I missed. I need to pressure wash some more, but as I'm going back here, it's funny because I was even joking with my buddies about this. I go to look at where the gas is leaking out of the fuel tank, and boop, that is the rib or a piece of bone from the deer. I was joking that I would find a rib bone or something like that in the fuel tank. Son of a gun. So that sucks. It basically means that it's not going to be repairable with like a plastic weld or anything like that. So it's gonna need a new fuel tank. So I'm gonna keep going, start dropping everything off that needs to come off. So here I'm taking the filler neck off, the rubber one. You just need where it connects to the hard line off for now. That's the easiest one to get at. And then up above here there's a little vapor line that is low pressure. It's held on with a little itty bitty hose clamp, really tough to get at. That's got to come off. And then here I'm popping off the drive shaft. All the bolts are held on with Loctites. They are really tough to get off. Definitely required some encouragement. The carrier bearings next, dropping that off. I would recommend dropping the exhaust first. It makes it a lot easier pulling it out. For some reason I decided to take the drive shaft out first. Slide the yoke out there, you saw. And here are the 2 straps. I thought that I had everything disconnected on top. And now that it's sagging here and I'm trying to pull it out, I realized I did not. There's another connector that's kind of tough to film. It goes to the vapor canister itself, and it's got a special connector here that I have a picture on. I was fighting trying to get it off. I wasn't sure how to get it off, so it took me a little bit longer than I would have liked. But here you can see I finally get that clip, pull that clip off, and then I have to take the tension off of the line in order to pull it off of the vapor canister. And so now the fuel tank's out, and here's that clip there. You can see it's got those 2 ear tabs. That's it released, and here's it locked in. And these 2 tabs I'm pointing to, I had to pull those open with my fingies, and then I used a flathead to pull it down and out in order to clear the retaining ring. Okay, so as you can see, yesterday we got the old fuel tank out. That was a struggle. Now that I've done it, I know a few tricks, but let's go ahead and get the new one opened up. See what we gotta transfer over. Look at that. Well, there we go. Here's the new fuel tank. Looks like we're gonna have to grab a couple of the rubber isolation pads from the old one. Obviously transfer over the transfer pump and the fuel pump. I'm surprised it comes with this. Transfer over the filler neck and the metal guarding. We're gonna have to pop all that out. So here I'm using some rubber cement to transfer the rubber pads, feet, and grommets from the old fuel tank to the new one. Yeah, the double side tape kind of rubbed off. Here I am. I popped the fuel pump out there, getting the quick connect hose that goes from the transfer pump to the base of the fuel pump disconnected there. And here is the transfer pump. A lot of sand. I recommend vacuuming it all off. That way you don't suck any sand or transfer any sand over to the brand new fuel tank. And here you got to fish through the transfer line. It was kind of a pain in the old rumpus. Finally got her in there, pulled her through. And then from here, it's essentially just connect as you took off from the old one. To get the seal to sit flush, I used the back side of the dental pick, the soft rounded side, and just walked that all the way around the edge of the seam. Now here, for that filler neck, big important tip here. As you can see, I'm going to start feeding her in. And one thing that I noticed pretty quick, one, I forgot the heat shield, but two, the filler neck, it's got a goofy kink to it, so you definitely want to make sure that you have the kink the same way as the one that you pulled off. I was off by about a quarter of a turn, so it ended up just bending the filler neck hose, kinking it up, and that would not have worked in a million years. So I had to pull the whole thing back out, transfer over the heat shield, which is just held in with some C-clips, and then rotate the filler neck hose to the correct position. It was paint marks. I just lined up the paint marks. And now that the fuel tank is back in, I can go ahead and stick the drive shaft back in. It's a lot easier now that the exhaust is out of the way. Don't gotta fight or work around that. So I slip the yoke back into the output shaft of the transmission. I stick a bolt in the carrier bearing, and then I put a bolt in the back where it goes into the differential. And then all the other bolts I'm putting blue medium strength Loctite on there, and then I pull the old one out that I used to start it and put it back in with some Loctite as well. So all four of them have Loctite, and I go through and torque the absolute bejesus out of them all. Now here I'm putting some lubricant on the rubber exhaust hangers. This is going to make it a ton easier mounting the exhaust back on there. So as you can see, I start back at where the muffler would be, slip those two in, and that acts as a good pivot point because it only uses two, all the way in. Now the wheels can go back on, and that's usually a good sign. That means that the project is slowly wrapping herself up, especially now that those jack stands are coming out. Okay, now that the car is back down on the ground, go back inside, plug in the transfer pump. This has some really sticky adhesive, so I just reuse all of it. Same thing with the fuel pump, reconnect the feed line to the fuel rail, and replug in the fuel pump connector. Now with the seats, you had to push them down to get that tab to lock in. Here, obviously you got to push them back and lift it up, and that'll get it set into the locking arm or armature in the back there. Tighten the seats down, and that's all good to go. Now, the moment of truth, filling her up with some gas. I'm filling her up and I'm checking for leaks as I go. This will let me know if the filler neck is leaking, if the hose clamp's loose, something like that. And then once that's done, time to reconnect the battery. Big step. And then once I'm doing this, I'm going to go inside the car and actually cycle power a few times, and that'll help me build pressure to the fuel rail and make sure there aren't any leaks there. Alrighty guys, so as you saw, drove the BRZ out of the garage. That's huge. It's so nice to have that car back on the road. I took it for a nice couple hour long road trip, just to make sure that everything worked good. Filled her up all the way to the tippity top. No leaks, no issues. That's huge. Now that that project is done, we can get back to what we were originally on. And a couple of parts came today. We got a little something from Australia and a little something from Holly. Save those for the next video, because then we can start throwing all that in there. Really excited. We got big moves coming for this. Progress is going to start going at a very rapid pace. Super excited. You aren't going to miss anything. So if you aren't, subscribe. If you liked what you saw, leave a like, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.